Hey, welcome everyone to today's episode of Tech Falcon. And today we'll be looking into the beginners course, and we're going to start with HTML today. So today we're going to do the introduction to HTML. So what is HTML? What is the meaning of HTML? What does the HTML stand for? And how to use HTML. So that is what we are looking into today. So let's dive into it. Welcome back everyone. So now my preferred text editor, the one I'm using a VS Code. So we're going to start the lecture now. So to use HTML in your documents, first thing you need to do is you need to create a root folder. I've already created one here, which is this. And when you've done that, you go back to your text editor of your choice. I choose a VS Code, as I've said earlier. Go to your text editor. When you get to your text editor, go to File, and inside File, look for Add Folder to Workspace. Click on it, and there's going to be another extra drop down. So from that drop down, navigate to where your folder is located. Mine is located inside the desktop folder, so I will look for it, and when I see it, I click and I add, and it's going to be added to my workspace. So here is it now. It's added to my workspace, and I've already created this before, so I've added some of the things I need inside. And when I created it, I added 4 extra folders: one for image, one for JS, which is JavaScript, one for style, and one for view. So our focus in this lecture now is going to be for the view section. So it's inside the view section we'll be creating our HTML code. And now, before we go into that, what is HTML? What is HTML? HTML is a standard markup language for creating web page. It defines the structure and content of a web page. Define the structure and the content of a web page. So what does the word HTML stand for? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext Markup Language, and it has been in existence ever since the day of World Wide Web to date, and it's still existing. And no matter what you want to do in programming, no matter the programming language you are using, you still need HTML inside of it. So now we know the meaning of HTML now, and we've added a folder to our workspace. So now the next thing to do now is, how can we use HTML? How can we use HTML? To use HTML, go to the root folder, which is myself here. I'm using view for it. You can right click on it and add a new file, or you can come to this box here and click on it and add a new file. So in this class now, I'll call my index.html. And one thing you need to note again, guys, is when you are creating an HTML, after naming it, don't forget to end it with .html. The .html that define the programming language you are using. That's what make this file now an HTML file. That's what make it an HTML file. So now we already have it here now. So the next thing we want to do again now is, now we want to declare the type of this document. There's something they call the doc type. So that is what we declare. We are declaring it now, and the doc type consists of different elements. It consists of the head, and it consists of the body. So now I'm going to do my own here, and I will select HTML5 because I can use this one now because I already have an extension in my VS Code that makes this possible for me to do, so that everything can go on fast. And if you don't have the extension, you don't have this one, you can go to, if you are using a VS Code, you can come to this icon here, click on it. When you click on it, search for it. You can search for HTML boilerplate. When you search for it, it's going to bring it. Here is it here. I already have it, so I'm not going to click on it. So when you see it, you can just download that in your device and have it in your machine, so it's going to make your work move very, very fast. So now we already have our HTML file. We have our document type here, and in this document type, let's take a little time here and explain what this section means. This is the document type, which is HTML, and here we have HTML here also, which is this HTML here is covering the entire document, and everything in this page must be in between the open and the close section of this HTML. And the next thing again, we have the head section. The head section is a section of the HTML document that is not going to be visible to the user. It's meant for the browser alone. It's the browser that's going to read the data that is inside. All this part here, the meta, all this stuff, they are made for the browser. They are for the browser's consumption. The browser will read the file that is inside and understand what you are trying to do. Why the title here? The title here is also for the browser, but this title is what that's going to display in your URL, in your browser URL. It's going to display your browser URL or inside the browser tab. So we can call it anything. We can call it my first page. You can call it my first page. So that's for the head section here. So now let's now go to the next one. The next one, which is the body. The body here. And the body here is very, very important because the body is what defines the entire page. Whatsoever thing you have in the body is going to be displayed in the browser. Everybody will be able to see it. The user will be able to see it. So for instance now, let's make our first page. Let's say hello world. Let's say hello world. Hello world. So now we already have this document in our HTML. So let's print it out. And to print it out, I'm going to use something again, which is called the live server. I will use something again, which is called the live server. And how can I use the live server? I will right click on my page, and there's going to be a drop down. And down here, you can see it, open live server. I will click on it, and it's going to open it in my browser. It's going to open it in my browser for me. Here is it. Here is our live server running for us. And this is what we typed on our page there, hello world. And in the URL section here, my first page, that is what displaying there. So that is how you work with HTML from the beginning. So thank you guys for your time. See you again in the next video.